Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vibhagavata Vacha Anashrita Karma Phalam Kalyam Karma Kadodiya Sasanyasi Chayusa Nani Raghu Chakriya.
Yes, your mic is not very good today. It's lots of background noise.
Oh, sorry. Oh, wait a sec. Let me try and do that.
Or is it from you, Sridham? I don't know.
I think it's from Yash.
From Yash. Okay, you go, Sridham.
Okay. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is, obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights fire and performs no duty.
No fire.
Lights no fire. Lights no fire and performs no duty. You must start no before fire, Sridham.
Okay.
You can go on.
Yam sanyasamiti praho yogam tam vedi pandava Maya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kashchana. Was that better, Prabhuji?
Yeah, better.
Okay, thank you.
What is called renunciation you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification.
Arurokshormune yogam karmakaran muchyate yogarudasyastaseva shamaha karanamuchyate.
For one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means, and for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means.
Hidahinandriyarteshu nakarmasva anushajyate sarvasankalpa sannyasi yogarudastadujyate.
A person is said to be elevated in yoga, and having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities.
Udaret atmanatmanam natmanam avasaddayat atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva vipuratmanaha.
One must deliver himself with the help of his mind, and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul, and his enemy as well.
Bandhur atmanas yenatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatruve vartetatmaiva shatruvat.
For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy.
Chitatmanaha prashantasya paramatma samahitaha shitoshna sukha dukeshu yatata mana pamanayoho.
For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same.
Jnana vijnana triptatma yuta kutasto vejitendriyaha yukta iti uchyate yogi samaloshtrashma kanchanaha.
The person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same.
Surmitrari udasina madhyasta dvesha bandhusu sadushva api chape papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate.
A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind.
Yogi yugneta satatam atmanam rahasistataha ekakiyata chittatma nirashir aparigraha.
A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness.
Shukaudesha pratishtapya stiram asanam atmanaha nati utritam nati nijam kailajina kushotaram Tatreikagaramanaha kritva yatai chitendriya kriyaha upavishyasane yugyad yogamatma vishuddhaya.
To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deerskin and soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on the point.
Samam kaya shiro grivam darayan achalam stiraha samprekshanasika kagram swam dishas valokayan Rashantatma Vigatadvir Brahmachari Ratastitaha Manaha Samyamya Machito Yukta Asitamat Paraha.
One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line. Start steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated mind, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life.
Yugyan evam sadatmanam yogini yatamanasaha shantim nirvana paramam matsamstam adhigachati.
Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God, or the abode of Krishna, by cessation of material existence.
Nati ashnatastu yogosti nachaikantam anashnataha nachati swapnasya jagrato nevacharjuna.
There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi. O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough,
Yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasya karmasu yukta swapna vabodasya yogo bhavati dukkha.
he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system.
Yada viniyatam chetam atmanieva vadishtate nishprahaha sarvakamebhyo yukta iti shatetada.
When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
Yata dipo nivatasto nengate sopamasmrita yogino yata chittasya yunyato yogam atmanaha.
As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is controlled, remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self.
Yatro paramate chetam nirudam yoga sevaya yatra jevatmanam pashyan atmani dushyati sukam atyantikam yaptad buddhigrayam atindriyam peti yatra nachevayam stitascharaditatpataha Yam labdva cha param labam manyate nadikam tata yasmin stito na dukena guru na vichalyate tam vedyad dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samnitam.
In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by a practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness. Realized the transcendental senses, established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact.
Sanishchayena yoktavyo yoga nirvina chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamam tatyakva sarvan acheshataha manase vendriya gramam viniyama samantaha.
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith, and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind.
Thank you, Yash and Sridham. Well done.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Yash. For the devotees, we continue today with our reading and discussion of chapter 6 entitled Dhyana Yoga. Today we shall be reading text number 6. Just want to activate everything. But before we do so, let's recite the Mangala Charan prayers. You can also recite it behind muted mics. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're reading text number 6. Bandhur Atmana Atma Atmanastasya Yenatmaiva Atmana Jitaha An Atmanastu Sattve Vartit Atmave Satruvat. Bandhu, friend. Atma, mind, the mind. Atmanaha, of the living entity. Tasya, of him. Yena, by whom. Atma, the mind. Eva, certainly. Atmanaha, Atmana, by the living entity. Jitaha, conquered. An Atmanaha, of one who has failed to control the mind. 2, but. Shatutve, because of enmity. Vartite, vartita, remains. Atma, eva, the very mind. Shatruvat, as an enemy. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. For one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The purpose of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and his mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. So the verse again, for one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So this chapter is called Dhyana Yoga. Dhyan means meditation. And the key aspect or the key prerequisite to be fixed in meditation is to control the mind. We all have read in the Bhagavad Gita and in other books of Shastra and very clearly explained by Srila Prabhupada that the purpose or the goal of Krishna consciousness is to be able to fix one's mind on Krishna, particularly to fix one's mind on Krishna at the time of death. In the Nectar of Instruction, text number 8, Srila Prabhupada writes, therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna Prasadam. So Srila Rupa Goswami is advising that we need to train our mind to think of Krishna and nothing else. This is the essence of instruction. And Prabhupada goes on to explain very nicely how that process of meditation takes place. You can read that in text number 8. I won't go through that. What I thought I would do today, because this is such an important verse, and as we've just been reading, a big part of this chapter is about the mind. Krishna, chapter 6 is about the Ashtanga Yoga process. The Ashtanga Yoga process is to control the mind. And what I thought I would do today is, over the last few years, I have been making some notes on this particular subject of the mind, controlling the mind. And from time to time, I refer to these notes because we always have to be reminded in our Krishna consciousness that the mind, as Krishna says here, unless it is a close friend, we will be in trouble. If the mind becomes an enemy, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, one is constantly living with an enemy. How intolerable, how difficult, how painful, and how disturbing it is to be living constantly with an enemy. Even if we live with an enemy or have the company of an enemy, even for a short while, it's nothing any of us wish for. So imagine living constantly with an enemy. So we do not want to be in that position. So I'd just like to share with you all today some of the notes I've kept about the mind. They're interesting. So the 3 cancers of the mind. The cancer is like a tumor that, if you do not check the tumor, it will just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And it will completely take over our body, and eventually we will die. In the same way, the mind, it can become like a cancer. It can completely destroy. So he said there are 3 cancers of the mind. 1 is to complain, 2 is to compare, and 3 is to criticize. If we find ourselves at any point in time complaining or comparing our life, ourselves, anything, and lastly criticizing, then we should know we've developed some cancer of the mind, and we need to, just like when you get a cancer, immediately we try to get a diagnosis and then we try to get a cure. Although there may not be a cure for cancers, but there's so many things. So in the same way, we should never find ourselves being caught with the cancers of the mind. And what is the antidote? First and foremost, to deal with the first 2, complaining and comparing, is to always live in a mindset of gratitude. That, due to my karma, I am meant to be suffering so much. But Krishna being kind upon me for trying to render a little service, he's minimized that. And what I am getting is only token karma. So a devotee never complains. And anyway, whenever there's reversals in life, the devotee simply sees it as the mercy of Krishna. So one is in a complaining state of mind means one has forgotten Krishna. And then criticize. It is a natural tendency of the conditioned soul to want to criticize everyone. Criticize everyone. And the antidote is to glorify. When one is grateful, then automatically one is more able to glorify. So these are the three cancers of the mind. And if we caught up in any of these three, we can be sure that our mind is becoming our enemy. So please, dear devotees, we should always guard against these three cancers of the mind. Has anyone got any comments, questions, or reflections on this before I move on to some other notes I have?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Mamta is saying that. Prabhuji. Oh my God, I think there is such a wonderful way of explaining the three cancers of mind, and I'm sorry to say I have all the three in me, and it's such a big awakener. Thank you so much for putting up the slide, Prabhuji. It is so beautiful. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. I always try to remember this, Mamta Mataji, when I start to complain or become grumpy, or I just think, oh, be careful now. It's a nice one to have. Keep it as a sticker somewhere.
Yes, Prabhuji. I've taken the screenshot now. Sorry for without your permission.
No. So, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I'll move forward to now some other notes I have. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 17, text number 1, the Lord gives a beautiful way in which we can make the mind austere. Austere means controlled. And Krishna says there in text number 1, and surely Srila Prabhupada gives in the purport, to make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can always be thinking of doing good for others. Now, this is very, very important instruction Srila Prabhupada gives us. The Lord is saying, you make the mind austere and detach it from sense gratification. Prabhupada says, that's the negative injunction. If you do this in a positive way, this will come automatically. And what should we do? Always think of doing good for others. And what is the best good we can do for others? Is to give them Krishna consciousness. So always think. Prabhupada says, even if you cannot do, if you simply think how to do, even if you cannot do, simply if you think how to do, you'll become liberated. So we should always be thinking, people are suffering. People are really suffering. Even the rich people, even the people who have so-called everything, even they are suffering. Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, in this world, there is actually no scarcity. The only scarcity is Krishna consciousness. We should be convinced that Krishna consciousness is the only thing that can make the other people happy. So this is one very nice advice to make the mind austere. Chastising the mind. And I'll speak about this from two angles. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, in the morning you beat the mind up with your shoe 3 times. And the evening you beat it up 3 times with a broom. Nowadays we don't have much brooms, we have more vacuum cleaners. So maybe we should beat it with a vacuum cleaner. Anyway, this is an excerpt from the Sri Guru Tattva by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is our Param Guru, our great grand spiritual master. He says, we must destroy the mind. It must be eliminated. The mind is the king amongst all the senses. The senses supply the mind with knowledge of the external world. Through such knowledge supplied by the senses, the mind sometimes engages in gross enjoyment and sometimes in subtle enjoyment. The human soul has made the mind its agent to deal with the world of enjoyment. When this mind becomes engrossed in its own principles, then various anarthas arise. If one wants to attain real pleasure by removing displeasure, then the mind is to be destroyed. There is danger when the mind acts independently. Chastising the mind is the first statement found in all the Shastras. However, there is no way of chastising the mind except by serving the lotus feet of Rishikesh. Now, I highlighted the last sentence because this is so important. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, there is no way of chastising the mind. Like, to beat it with the broom, just like you chastise a young child, you can't. The only way you can chastise it is by engaging the mind in the lotus feet of Krishna. So if the mind was to be engaged in both gross and subtle sense gratification, we have to train the mind. And this word training is very, very important. And I'll come back to this word in some of the other quotes I do. So this is a very nice quotation again from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. How the spirit soul's ability to feel, think, and will has been stolen by the mind. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains how we are hovering on the mental plane, because when the spirit soul becomes embodied, the spirit soul goes into a dormant state, and the natural functions of thinking, feeling, and willing, which are actually functions of the soul, get stolen by the mind. So dear devotees, we are the soul, we're not the body. So the soul can think, the soul can feel, and the soul has free will. But the moment we as the spirit soul, we take on a body, we become embodied. This qualities or this function of thinking, feeling, and willing, it gets stolen by the mind. The mind says, thank you very much. Now I take control. Thinking, feeling, and willing is now under my control. And the mind, what does it do? It is this sankalpa, vikalpa. It's always accepting and rejecting. I like this, I don't like this. I like this, I don't like this. The mind is always hovering on the mental plane. And therefore it causes a lot of distress to us. So one of the first things we do is to say, from today, anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. Whatever is good, whatever is bad. Sorry, mind, you're not doing this anymore. I am still a conditioned soul. But from today, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastras, now they tell me what is good and what is bad. What should accept, what should reject. Previously, I've been under your control. You've been telling me, Mr. Mind, what I should accept, what I should reject. But from today onwards, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But it is Guru, Sadhu, Shastra are going to tell me what is good, what is bad. So this is very important, to come out of the control of the mind. Now this is an interesting extract. I took this from a quotation from Devaki Mataji, who is a very senior Vaishnavi. And she wrote a nice article. It's called The Futility of a Boxing Match with the Mind. And here she says, please, don't get involved in a boxing match with the mind, because we will know who will come out the loser. So I'll just read for you this little extract. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur advises us in this Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Make your chanting heart deep, not just lip deep. We have all heard the analogy that Srila Prabhupada gave us in regards to chanting the holy name. We should cry out to Krishna like a helpless child calling out in desperation for his mother. It is a simple yet profound analogy. A child crying in helplessness does not have the problem of a wandering mind. The child will not say, whenever I cry for my mother, my mind is thinking of so many things, where to play, whom to play with, what to play. No, there is no room in a child's mind for any other thought. Where is my mother? I need her right now. This is what it means to cry out in helplessness and desperation. We can therefore understand that simply engaging in a boxing match with the mind will not bring us to deeper levels of chanting. Instead, the holy name will remain on the level of our mind and intelligence. We have to bring Krishna's holy name to the level of the heart. If our heart is actually involved when crying out to Krishna, then our mind will be drawn to the heart and will not be distracted any longer. Our problem is we do not feel desperate for Krishna. We have ignored and neglected him for so many lifetimes. We continue thinking that we can be happy without Krishna being part of our life. Therefore, we are lacking the feeling of helplessness and desperation. We also lack the humility to feel truly helpless. Our pride gives us the confidence that we are fine without Krishna, thinking we have everything perfectly under control. As people in Australia commonly exclaim, "No worries, mate." With no worries, mate attitude to life, we will not feel helpless enough to call out to the Lord. That was a good one. Srimad Bhagavatam, this is a note I made from the 5th canto, 11th chapter, text number 17. This is spoken by Jat Bharat to Maharaj Rahugana. Jat Bharat in his previous life was Bharat Maharaj, who became attached to a deer and he took birth again. So this is what Jat Bharat says to Maharaj Rahugana. He says, this uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O King, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. Now, there's some very, very important aspects of this instruction. The first one is the mind is not factual. It is very strong. So what does that mean? It's not factual. It means it's something temporary. It's material. Anything material, according to Vedic science, anything that is temporary is not factual. It's not real. So although it is temporary, it's not factual, it is still very strong in terms of its influence. And the instruction that Jat Bharat gives to Maharaj Rahugana, he says, conquer the mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this last statement is very important for us. Do this with great care. Care meaning attention. Meaning, the solution is devotional service to Krishna. Focus the mind on Krishna. But the problem is, unless we do it with great care and attention, we could be cooking, our mind is somewhere. We could be offering arati, the mind is somewhere else. We could be doing puja, we're thinking of 10 different things. We could be chanting, we are thinking of so many things. Meaning, externally, we can be so-called engaged in devotional activities, cooking, cleaning, worshipping, reading, chanting. But if we are not doing it with care and attention, that means our mind is absorbed, our mind is focused on the activity, then we cannot really consider that to be real devotional service. So Maharaj Jad Bharat is telling Maharaj Rahugana, you do this with great care. You do this with great care. Meaning, be attentive. Be attentive. Therefore, it is said that of all of the offenses to the holy name of Krishna, the greatest offense is inattention. Inattention. Inattention simply means the mind is being drawn to other activities while engaged in devotional service. So this is a very important instruction. This is a very nice verse. And the purport, I'm just going to read you an extract of the purport because it's so powerful. So this verse is spoken by Sutta Goswami. And he says here in the first canto, chapter 3, text 44, O learned Brahmanas, when Shukadev Goswami recited Bhagavatam, there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention. And thus by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I have realized it. So Sutta Goswami is talking to the sages like Naimisharanya. And he's saying, actually, I heard this Bhagavatam, but I heard it with rapt attention. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives a very, 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 very important instruction about hearing with rapt attention. And let's read what Prabhupada has to say. Prabhupada says, this is the real process of receiving Bhagavatam. One should hear with rapt attention from the real person, and then he can at once realize the presence of Lord Krishna in every page. Prabhupada is saying, if you read with rapt attention, you can realize Lord Krishna in every page of Bhagavatam. And then Prabhupada gives the secret. He says the secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But somehow or the other, if someone hears with rapt attention from the right person, at the very beginning, one can assuredly see Lord Krishna in every pages of the Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada says, the secret is in the Bhagavatam, but that Bhagavatam has to be heard and read with rapt attention. And Prabhupada says, you have to be pure in mind. And to be pure in mind, you've got to be pure in action. In what your actions? In eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. So this is very, very important. Very important. And now I'll just conclude with some quotations. The Prabhupada says, by one's mind freed from material affection, one can deliver himself from the pangs of sufferings of material pangs. So one should not entangle oneself in matter by the mind's material affections. Thus, one's own mind is one's friend or enemy in one's material happiness and distress. So Prabhupada is saying, when one is free from material affections, then the mind will be one's friend. But when one is very caught up in material affections, it's one's enemy. Just like Arjuna. Canto 3. If we divert our minds to thoughts of material enjoyment, then our mind becomes an enemy. And if we concentrate our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, then our mind is a friend. It seems very easy that we should not think about material enjoyment. We should concentrate our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. In the beginning stages, it requires some practice and training. And then gradually, it becomes more spontaneous. And the Canto 4, text 29, chapter 29, text 7, Prabhupada writes, according to training, the mind is the friend and the enemy of the living entity. If one gets a good manager, his estate is very nicely managed. But if the manager is a thief, his estate is spoiled. So Prabhupada is saying training. So what is this training that's being referred to? The training is the training we receive from the spiritual master, from the Vaishnavas and the Guru. And one must always consider oneself a student in a humble frame of mind. I wanted to read something else, very important, but I think I shall stop there. I'll just refer you, dear devotees, if you have time tonight, I would recommend you read the 11th canto. 11th canto, very nice, chapter number 23 from text number 43 onwards. So the context of this verse is Krishna is instructing Uddhava in a section called Uddhava Gita in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this chapter number 23, Krishna tells Uddhava the story of an Avanti Brahman. And the chapter is called the Song of the Avanti Brahmana. And this Avanti Brahmana, it's a story, he was a very mean, nasty, grumpy old man. But one day he realized how he was just being used and taken advantage by his family. And he just left everything and he went. And then when he goes, he becomes a mendicant. He gets abused by so many people. And then he's completely unaffected. And then he is asked, how are you remaining unaffected? And then he gives some very wonderful instruction as told by Lord Krishna from text 43 onwards. He explains how these reversals that one feels in life, they are simply a function of the mind. And the Lord gives some beautiful, beautiful analogies about how one can understand how one is controlled by the mind. That can be a class by itself, a session by itself. It's so beautiful, but I would suggest, because of time, and we also have, I think it's Mamta Mataji today is going to sing a beautiful bhajan for us, which is so relevant to today's class, Mama Mana Mandire. So before Mataji sings for us, I'd just like to take any questions, comments, or reflections. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question and maybe clarification. First, basically, permission, not clarification. I'm actually using the context of chart group teachers, and I'm taking the same context and like speaking to my friends and my colleagues. I hope it's okay. So I'm taking like all the notes. I'm going through the videos and taking the same matter and speaking to my colleagues. So I didn't take permissions from you, any of the teachers. I'm copying the messages.
No, that's perfectly clear. Whatever we speak is we are repeating what Prabhupada spoken. And Prabhupada never put any copyright on his words, so to speak. And Prabhupada actually encouraged us. He said, you simply repeat what I have said. That's perfection. So there's no difficulty there, Venkat Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And one question I have is on this comparison.
Yes.
If we, I know you said that we have to be gratitude what we have it. So maybe if we can give more explanation on that, like how can we stop comparing? So sometimes what I do is I compare in my material world with some other people, and also in the spiritual life, if someone get the more appreciation or they get more good service to do, I be like feeling comparing with them. So how can we overcome that comparison? Especially in the spiritual, it's going to be Vaishnava Aparad. I don't want to be doing that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice question. How to come out of comparing? Firstly, to be conscious of it. And the other one is the way is to glorify. So say suppose you are in the temple and some devotee is singing very beautifully, right? And you start to think to myself, well, I'm just a hopeless singer. I can't sing like that. You know, I wish I could sing as well as them. So the first thing is to understand that everybody is given a gift, a certain type of gift, and you know, that gift is given to them by Krishna. As Krishna said, I am the ability in man. So one way is to think that ability is actually coming from Krishna, and you appreciate it as something that's coming from Krishna, right? So we do not get caught in comparing and then letting envy or despondency arise in our heart. That is one way I've learned. And the second is to question ourselves. You know, why am I comparing it? Because do I want to be greater? Do I want recognition? Is to question our motives. And then is to just recognize, you know, that I am born with certain karma. That person is born with another karma. You know, we just accept our karma, and we just accept what we've been given. Largely it's to do with motives, Venkat Prabhu. You know, why do we want to compare? It's because of wanting something material, some material recognition, some material comfort, and so on. So that's just some insights. I would welcome. We have many wonderful devotees, very advanced devotees, very mature devotees. I can just looking at the names today on today's call. Dear devotees, please don't be shy. You all have realizations. Maybe you want to share some realizations with Venkat Prabhu that you have. Would anyone like to do that? And Vaishnavas by nature are humble, but shouldn't feel shy. Anyone likes to share a realization?
If I may, Prabhu, share a little realization.
Yes, Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu, I was hoping you would.
What a wonderful session. Thank you for giving us a timely reminder not to take the mind for granted. It is definitely an enemy. And from my personal experience, when you genuinely glorify a devotee with the service they are doing, there is a certain feeling of happiness in the heart that you experience.
Mm-hmm.
You experience that also.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think gratitude is a very good weapon to divert the mind from the senses to its real purpose, to help you in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I would like to share my experience of how I handle my mind.
Yes, please, Meena Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So I do a yoga class in the mornings where, the exercise helps you to be calm and have all positive thoughts, no negative thoughts. So it's sort of making the mind peaceful, doing the yoga. And now, whenever I find myself thinking negatively or thinking of things that are not relevant, when these things come to my mind, I have got Arjuna's arrows. So I shoot those arrows at those thinking processes. Immediately shoot them so that it stops and I am back to stopped myself from going there before I can go further. Indulge my mind into thinking, oh, why did she do that? What this happened? How this? I said, don't go there. Shoot it straight away.
So you become an archer and you shoot all those bad thoughts.
Yes. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mata. Is there something on the chat? Who is it that we should glorify? Everyone? How is it possible with those who do not wish us well? Lie, steal, etc. Well, at least devotees we should glorify. Those that lie, steal, etc. The point being is, don't get involved in criticizing. They are like that because they are in the modes of material nature. If they're doing it to us, that's because we probably did it to them in their last lives, and now they're just giving us back. So the point being is not to get too involved in the mental process of thinking about why did they do this to me? Why did they lie to me? Why did they cheat me? Why they were being horrible to me? The mind can get completely, it's called the victim mentality. The mind loves being a victim, loves being a victim. So Krishna tells Arjuna the story about the Avanti Brahman. And one of the lessons is from those stories, as given to us, explained to us by Bhaktivinoda Swami, is do not allow your mind to feel it's a victim. If it goes into the victim mode, you're in trouble. It's become your enemy. And when one starts to think, why did this happen to me? Why did he do this to me? Why did she do this? Then you become a victim. Stay away, according to the lessons of the Bhagavatam, stay away from considering of your victim. If you think to yourself, no, I'm not the victim, yeah? This is my karma. This is simply my karma that I'm receiving back. I'm not the victim. It is my doing. I'm simply reaping my reactions. And anyway, I'm sure Krishna is using some of this karma to teach me a lesson for my benefit. So why should I feel a victim? I'm actually a beneficiary here of some important life lessons from Krishna. So that is the main point, not to go onto the mental platform. And one does so when one becomes a victim. All right, maybe I should stop here and move on to the song. Prabhu Tamata, do you want to say something quickly?
Yes, Prabhuji, is just a request.
Yes.
There is Mataji, we went on Harinam Sankirtan, she reached out and she's from India.
Yeah.
And she's in Birmingham student and she's looking for some Sangha and I don't know anybody in Birmingham. So do you or anybody on the chat group, they living in a Birmingham or they know somebody that they do this Sangha, then I can, she can, join with that Sangha or something, Prabhu?
Yeah. Send me a message, Mataji. I'll give you some details.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, Mamta Mataji, are you ready? How we will do this? Will we read the English first and then you'll sing after?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji. I think that's what Mataji was saying, or unless you want me to sing first.
No, I think it's better when we hear the meaning and then
Yes, Prabhuji.
get more. So Arsha Mataji, would you like to read the English translation, please?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. The song is Mama Mana Mandire. Translation. Please abide in the temple of my heart, both day and night, O Krishna Murari, O Shri Krishna Murari. Devotion, love, flower garlands, and sandalwood, please accept them, O delighter of the heart. In life or in death, I worship you with these offerings, beautiful one, O enchanter of the heart. Come, son of Nanda, and then, O son of Nanda, I will offer your arti ceremony with the lamplight of my love. The waters of the Yamuna river cascade incessantly from my eyes in your separation, O holder of Govardhana hill. May I pass my life absorbed only in songs of your praise, O Krishna Murari, Sri Krishna Murari. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Mama mana mandire rahanishi din Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Mama mana mandire rahanishi din Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Mama mana mandire rahanishi din Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Bhakti Priti Mala Chandan Bhakti Priti Mala Chandan Tumi Niyo He Niyo Chitanandan Tumi Niyo He Niyo Chitanandan Mama Mana Mandire Rahanishi din Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Jivana Marana Tava Puja Nivedan Jivana Marana Tava Jivana Marana Jivana Marana Tava Puja Nivedan Sundara He Mana Hari Sundara He Mana Hari Esho Nanda Kumara Nanda Kumar হবে প্রেম প্রদীপে আরতি তোমার কৃষ্ণ মুরারি শ্রী কৃষ্ণ মুরারি মম মন মন্দিরে Rahanishi din Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Nayana Jamuna Chare অনিবার নয়ন যমুনা ঝরে নয়নে নয়ন যমুনা ঝরে অনিবার তোমার বিরহে গিরিধারী তোমার বিরহে গিরিধারী বন্দন গানে তব বজুক জীবন বন্দন গানে তব বজুক জীবন কৃষ্ণ মুরারি শ্রী কৃষ্ণ মুরারি মম মন মন্দিরে রাহানিশি দিন কৃষ্ণ মুরারি শ্রী কৃষ্ণ মুরারি কৃষ্ণ মুরারি শ্রী কৃষ্ণ মুরারি মম মন মন্দিরে রাহানিশি দিন কৃষ্ণ মুরারি।
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It's beautifully sung, Mataji. With so much of feeling and really, really very, very nice. And it was a beautiful and appropriate song. You know, we were just saying at the beginning of the class, you know, the whole purpose of Krishna consciousness is to be able to fix our minds on Krishna. And this bhajan, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so beautifully, he has fixed his mind on Krishna in such a beautiful mood, such an appropriate song. And thank you for singing it so beautifully.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So dear devotees, I apologize if you had some reflections or questions that we didn't have time to catch today, but thank you so much for your attendance. And we will conclude with Vaishnava Pranams. Panchakalpa Tirubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha.
Namo Namaha.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.